Hi and welcome to another grumpy video, and in this video I'm going to be slightly changing things and not talking about books. Now, because I read a lot of books, I don't tend to watch a lot of screen, and you'll notice there that I said screen and not television, and the reason for that is, in this country, if you want to watch TV as it is broadcast, in other words live, then you need to pay for a TV licence. And from last year this also included watching catch-up TV via the BBC iPlayer app. Since I don't do either, I don't need a licence, and you'd think it'd be that straightforward, but it's not. You see, if you don't drive, you don't need a driver's licence, and if you don't have a gun, you don't need a gun licence, and in the old days when you used to have a licence for your dog, if you chose not to have a dog, you didn't need a dog licence. You've seen the theme here? And it should be that straightforward here, but it isn't. So in this country, if you don't buy a TV licence, even if it's because you don't need one, it's automatically assumed that you're doing something wrong. Basically, you're lying, you're a criminal. Even if you're not, you must be watching live TV or TV via the BBC iPlayer app. According to their own research, only 2% of households don't watch live TV and then therefore legitimately don't have a TV licence. Now, I'm not going to get into whether that statistic is accurate or not. I don't know, because I don't know where they got the figure from. If it is, then I'm one of the 2%. And however, if you don't have a TV licence, you will be hounded. And a lot of people say, well, you just write to them or phone them up and explain that you don't need a licence and they'll leave you alone. And you'd think that would be simple enough. Even on their own website and in their letters, they claim it is that simple. Except it's not. For one thing, they will only accept this for 2 years. After that time, you will automatically default back to being a presumed criminal. And if you change your circumstances or you begin to need a licence, you could let them know, but they can't accept that you could possibly work out how to do that, so they will just automatically assume you are a criminal again after 2 years. Despite the fact that in this country, if you buy a TV, they are automatically notified, even if you never use it to receive live broadcasts. Secondly, even if they do accept that you are telling the truth, they're going to want to send someone round to check. And yeah, I know, I get it. People will lie, people will try it on, people try and get away with things. I do understand that. But the point is, it wouldn't be tolerated if it was something else. If you substituted BBC for Netflix or Amazon Prime or Now TV or whatever, it just wouldn't happen. And I mean, I know they are subscription services and you can opt out simply by not buying them, and that's why nobody comes to check. But essentially that's the same thing as the BBC, except they roll out their charge to include all channels received live, who then have to fund themselves via advertising. We wouldn't accept this in other areas of life either. I mean, we don't periodically have a government official coming round to ask, did you buy everything in your house? If you got receipts for it? You just don't have that. They wouldn't do it without strong grounds for suspecting that you'd done something wrong, and not simply on the basis that you didn't declare that you hadn't bought something in a particular time period. Can you imagine what that would be like? I am convinced that some people purchase TV licences that they don't need because they're scared into doing so by these people. Because people get that white coat syndrome, or whatever it's called, where you kind of regress back to where you were a child and you had no control and you weren't allowed to have a different opinion from those people in power. Even when those people in power were wrong, when you had to do as you're told, even if you thought, suspected or knew that it was wrong. And this is how people have got away with doing a lot of bad things to other people in the past and present, children and adults. Which brings me on to something else. I would love to be able to say that the reason I stopped watching live television and the iPlayer app was because I abstained on political, moral, conscientious objection grounds. And sadly, it's not, because of a lot of the things that happened. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know, Google it, or search engine of choice it, if you want to know the details. I'm not going to put them in here. And so, as I say, I would like to be able to say that the reason why I don't watch it was on those grounds, but it's not. The real reason is a lot simpler. I just found out that over time I was watching less and less TV, until the point when I realised I hadn't even switched the box on for months, and I thought, why would you want to pay all that money for something that you're barely using? And I certainly wasn't missing it. All I watched was YouTube and the occasional catch-up, and not on iPlayer. So although I've heard a lot of people have stopped paying for the TV licence because they objected, that just wasn't how it was for me. That part was just a bonus, really. The reality is for me that there aren't many shows that I enjoy, and none of them need to be watched live. And let's face it, I can watch something whenever I like, and that is free or a subscription service that you've opted to pay for, or I can watch it at a specific time that one company has said this is when it'll be on and that's when you're watching it, and that would cost me nearly £150 a year, and that to me seems like a no-brainer. I mean, obviously I'm not including repeats here, but I can watch it when I like for free for some channels anyway. And why would you want to pay that? I mean, that's just a personal thing. I get it, you know. It isn't to say that there's anything wrong with watching TV live, and if you want to watch TV live, then that's fine. There are people who say, oh, it's a bargain, you don't have to pay for adverts, and whatever reason they think it's a bargain, that's fine. If you consider it to be a bargain, maybe it is. It's a subjective thing. You can have it and pay for it if you consider it to be a bargain. I'm not saying that I think it is, or even that I think it isn't. My point is, it's not a bargain to pay for something you don't want and aren't using. We've got the council for that. We don't need the BBC adding to it. If I'm not using your services and they aren't mandatory, which despite commission-based sales reps, i.e. TVL, would like you to believe, the TV licence isn't, and why should I pay for them? Okay, sorry, I've been slightly leaning like this while I've been talking, so I'm going to get back to what I was saying. So the issue is, you will be sent letters threatening you, telling you you must be doing something wrong, and we're going to send enforcement to check. Now, the way they word the letters is very aggressive and threatening, and as though they know that you're doing something wrong and you've already been convicted regardless of whether you legitimately don't buy a licence. They'll tell you they've opened an investigation into you. And you know what? The investigation, CSI, TVL, wouldn't even get broadcast. It'd be boring. That series would be straight to video, a video in Poundland, where it would be ignored. It would be that interesting. CSI Grumpy Old Git would be the most boring, dull investigation in the history of forever. I am really not an interesting person. I freely admit to the majority of people I am going to be incredibly boring. And I too mean incredibly boring. When I'm not out or working, I pretty much sit and read or get things done while listening to music or an audiobook, maybe do some crafts now and again, things like that. I'm not doing anything exciting enough to investigate. The most exciting thing I do is pop the tab on a cherry cola now and again, maybe get a takeaway if I'm feeling really wild. That's my exciting life, and if you want to come and investigate that, then fine, but bring a warrant. So after all that, I wanted to add that last year they updated the TV licensing laws to include the BBC iPlayer, so you can no longer watch BBC programmes on catch-up without getting a TV licence. I think they wanted to basically include people who had been legitimately not paying for a TV licence by including the iPlayer content as well. Now that would have been fair enough, except for the fact that the BBC iPlayer app is absolutely crap. And I say this from the perspective of someone who did have it a long time ago before it became against law to have it. There were a few programmes that I actually didn't mind through the BBC, such as Have I Got News For You, Mock the Week, QI. I think they're brilliant programmes, and they were almost worth the licence fee. But even then, I ended up where I would just watch them on DVD, so I didn't bother. But my point was that trying to watch those through the BBC iPlayer app was mind-numbing. It was terrible. If it didn't crash, it would just freeze. It was unusable, basically. I mean, it was double the price of any other streaming service, and you couldn't use it. I haven't found a platform where that worked smoothly yet. Maybe there is one, and maybe I just don't own that one. But I've tried it on a few different devices in the past when it was legal to do it without a TV licence, and it was rubbish. I mean, if you're going to make us pay £150 nearly a year for an app, make it work. I mean, come on. I've tried Netflix and YouTube. They work pretty much consistently well, you know, alright, now and again they might have a few technical issues, but this was all the time. I deleted it months, several months before it actually became illegal, because I heard it was going to become illegal, thought I might as well get rid of it. But even then I hadn't used it for ages. It was like once or twice, and I know some of the catch-up programmes are some of the catch-up channels aren't that great, yeah, but it really is terrible, and they're not charging. At least they're just funding themselves through adverts. You can turn it off if you want, but for people who are paying £150 a year nearly to watch this, I feel sorry for them. Well, slightly. I mean, you make your choice, really, but it's a terrible app. I mean, I could probably look it up on the App Store now and see it's still terrible. I'm guessing it's still terrible. In fact, let's do that. So here we are, we have the BBC iPlayer app. I hope you can see that. I'm not sure how clearly it will show up. And it has 3.6, which is actually quite generous, I think. And I'm going to have a look and see. Yeah. Resume function is woefully inadequate. Why can I start watching new programmes but not resume a programme stream which has stopped? Exceedingly frustrating. This app just gets better and better. 2 or 3 updates ago I could download programmes, no problem, I just had trouble casting. Then 2 updates later I could no longer cast, problems, but downloads got to 99% then fail. Someone else has put, still not working, I have updated iPlayer and everything else. So this is basically giving you a thing. I mean, if you want to see it, just go and read it. I probably shouldn't be reading out other people's comments anyway, but they are basically terrible. The majority of people are giving them 1 and 2 stars. In fact, I don't actually know how they have managed to get a 3.6 star rating. They are atrocious. And in my experience, and it seems everybody else's, they're still atrocious. Why would you want to pay £150 a year for that? I don't know. Especially when you consider you could get something else for half the price. So yeah, that's my thoughts on TV licensing and why I don't have a TV license, because I don't need one. I hope this video wasn't too irritating or boring or long-winded for anyone, but then again, you know where the off switch is. So anyway, I'm going to finish this now and say bye.